Have you ever tried to sleep and suddenly your brain decides it's the perfect time to replay every mistake from 2009? Why does the mind choose 2 a.m. to become a motivational speaker, a critic, and a horror storyteller all at once? If your mind won't stop racing, stay with me till the end. The last lessons will truly change your perspective. Because today, we are not just calming the mind, we are understanding it. And when you understand something, you stop fearing it. I know how it feels. You sit quietly, but inside, it's chaos. Thoughts about your career, thoughts about relationships. What if I fail? What if I'm behind? What if I never become who I want to be? And the more you try to stop thinking, the louder the thoughts become. It feels like your own mind has become your opponent. But let me tell you something very gently. Your mind is not your enemy, it is an untrained friend. And today we begin training it. Let's walk through 7 lessons. Not to silence your mind forcefully, but to guide it wisely. If you think this is important, wait until you hear the next few lessons, because they contain the real secret. Your mind is racing not because it hates you, but because it cares. Think about that for a moment. If you didn't care about your future, your relationships, your dreams, your image, your purpose, your mind would be silent. It would not bother calculating possibilities. It would not replay conversations. It would not analyze risks. It would not imagine scenarios where things could go wrong. The mind races when it feels responsible. But here is the twist. It doesn't know the difference between real danger and imagined danger. Long ago, when our ancestors lived in forests, the mind's job was simple. Is that a tiger? Should I run? That system kept them alive. But today the tiger is an email, a deadline, a message left unread, a comment someone made 3 years ago that suddenly revisits you at midnight. The same survival mechanism is now reacting to psychological threats. Your mind is not attacking you. It is attempting to protect you from pain, embarrassment, failure, rejection, uncertainty. The problem is not that it protects you. The problem is that it overprotects you. Imagine a security guard who never sleeps. Even when the building is empty and safe, he keeps blowing the alarm. At first, you appreciate his dedication, but after a while, it becomes exhausting. The noise becomes the threat. That is what happens inside you. When you lie awake at night and your brain starts replaying something awkward you said, it is trying to protect you from future embarrassment. When it imagines worst-case scenarios about your career, it is trying to prepare you. When it overthinks a relationship, it is trying to prevent heartbreak. But preparation without pause becomes panic. And here is something very important. If you label your racing mind as broken, you create a war inside. You add frustration on top of fear. Now it's not just anxiety, it's anxiety about anxiety. Instead of saying, "What is wrong with me?" try asking, "What is my mind trying to solve right now?" That simple question shifts you from victim to observer. Sometimes your mind is racing because you have been suppressing emotions. You didn't speak when you should have. You didn't process a disappointment. You didn't grieve properly. You stayed busy to avoid feeling, and when you finally slow down, the mind presents the pending files. It says, "We need to talk." And because you are tired, you think something is wrong. But maybe something is healing. When a wound heals, it itches. When the mind heals, it reflects. But reflection without guidance becomes rumination. So what do we do? First, we stop treating the mind as an enemy. Because when you fight your own mind, you can never win. You are both the fighter and the battlefield. Second, we train it gently, not by force, not by suppression, but by awareness. Have you ever seen a child who keeps asking questions? Why? Why? The child is not trying to irritate you. The child is curious. The mind is similar. It keeps presenting questions because it seeks certainty. And certainty is comforting, but life does not promise certainty, it promises growth. When your mind keeps racing about what if, remind it softly, we will handle it when it comes, not aggressively, not sarcastically, calmly. Because calmness signals safety. Calmal, because calmness signals safety. You see, the nervous system listens to your tone. If you panic about your thoughts, the body thinks the danger is real. If you breathe slowly and respond gently, the body begins to relax. Your racing mind is often a reflection of accumulated overstimulation, constant notifications, endless scrolling, comparison, noise, opinions, news, deadlines, expectations. Your brain has been on high alert for too long. It is tired. And tired minds don't slow down easily. This is why compassion is essential. Instead of saying, stop thinking, say, thank you for trying to protect me. That might sound strange, but gratitude softens tension. When you appreciate the intention behind the noise, the volume decreases. Awareness is powerful. Once you understand that your racing mind is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of sensitivity and responsibility, something shifts inside you. You stop resisting. You start listening. And listening creates space. The goal is not to eliminate thoughts. The goal is to create distance from them. Because the moment you realize that your mind is simply trying to help, even if clumsily, you stop feeling attacked by it. You begin to feel supported by it. And that is the beginning of peace. Because understanding that your mind is trying to protect you is only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you discover something even more powerful. You are not your thoughts. Sit with that for a moment. If a thought appears in your mind that says, I'm not good enough, who noticed that thought? If a memory surfaces and makes you uncomfortable, who is aware of that discomfort? If your mind creates a dramatic prediction about the future, who is watching that prediction unfold? There is a silent witness within you. That witness is calm. That witness does not panic. That witness simply observes. Most of us have never been taught this diction. We grew up believing that whatever we think must be true. If the mind says you will fail, we assume failure is coming. If it says they don't like you, we assume rejection is real. But thoughts are not facts. They are mental events, clouds passing through the sky of awareness. The problem is not that clouds exist. The problem is when the sky forgets it is the sky. Imagine standing by a busy road. Cars are passing constantly. Small cars, large trucks, noisy motorcycles. Some move slowly, some speed past. Now imagine that every time a car passes, you jump onto it and let it take you wherever it goes. That is what we do with thoughts. A thought appears, what if this doesn't work out? And immediately we climb into that car. We follow it down a long highway of imagined disasters. We see failure. We see embarrassment. We see disappointment. And by the time we reach the end of that mental road, our heart is racing. All because we entered a car we didn't need to enter. What if you simply stood on the sidewalk? What if you watched the car pass and said, interesting, and let it continue without you? That space between you and the thought is freedom. When your mind won't stop racing, it feels like you are trapped inside it. But in truth, you are the one observing the race. The racing is happening within awareness, and awareness itself is still. Think about the ocean. On the surface, there are waves. Some are gentle, some are violent, Storms create chaos above, but if you go deep enough into the ocean, there is silence, stillness, no turbulence. Your thoughts are the waves. Your true self is the depth. But most people live on the surface. They identify with every emotional wave. They define themselves by every passing mental state. I am anxious. I am overthinking. I am stressed. Instead, try saying, anxiety is present, overthinking is happening, stress is being observed. Notice the difference. In the first statement, you become the problem. In the second, you become the witness. And the witness is never overwhelmed. This does not mean you suppress feelings. It means you create room for them without becoming them. When sadness comes, observe it. When fear arises, observe it. When excitement appears, observe that too. The goal is not to eliminate emotional experience. The goal is to stop drowning in it. Many people fear their thoughts because they believe thoughts define identity. But thoughts are influenced by sleep, food, stress, hormones, past experiences, social media, conversations, environment. They are conditioned responses. You are not your conditioning. You are the conscious presence behind it. Let me ask you something gently. Have you ever had a thought that completely contradicted another thought you had earlier? Of course. In the morning you feel confident, at night you feel doubtful, yesterday you felt inspired, today you feel uncertain. If thoughts constantly change, how can they be your identity? They are weather patterns, and you are the sky. When you start observing thoughts instead of obeying them, something remarkable happens. The intensity reduces. Because thoughts feed on identification. The moment you say, "This is just a thought," the mind loses some of its grip. And here is something very important. You don't need to control every thought, you only need to notice them. Trying to control thoughts is like trying to stop waves with your hands. But observing them is like watching them rise and fall naturally. Even racing thoughts have rhythm. They peak, they fade, they are replaced by others. If you sit quietly and simply observe without reacting, you will notice something surprising. No thought stays forever. The mind creates noise, awareness creates silence. When your mind won't stop racing, don't try to outrun it. Don't try to silence it forcefully. Instead, sit back internally and say, "I see you." That simple shift from participant to observer changes everything. Because peace does not come from stopping thoughts. Peace comes from realizing you are bigger than them. And when you truly understand that, the race begins to slow down on its own. Now let us go even deeper into the journey. The moment you understand that you are not your thoughts, you realize something extraordinary. Arguing with your mind is like wrestling with smoke. You can try to grab it, hold it, stop it, push it away, but the harder you struggle, the more it spreads, slips, and overwhelms you. Every time a racing thought comes, "I'm behind, I'm failing," they don't respect me. We try to suppress it, resist it, fight it, and in that fight we give it energy. We give it life, we make it louder, we make it more insistent. This is why the mind races, because it thrives on resistance. If you resist a thought, it grows. If you argue with it, it becomes stronger. If you fight it, it feels more urgent. The mind is a clever student. It knows that reaction is fuel. And every time you get anxious about being anxious, overthinking or panic about your panic, you hand it more fire. So here is the art. Stop arguing, not by force, not by judgment, not by frustration, but by curiosity, by simple acknowledgement. When a thought arises, any thought, instead of saying, "This is terrible, I shouldn't be thinking this," say instead, "Interesting, You hear here, I see you. No debate, no resistance, just observation. When you do this, you make a subtle but powerful shift. The thought loses its drama because drama requires reaction. Anxiety requires attention, fear requires engagement. When you stop reacting, the energy that feeds the racing mind begins to fade. The storm is still happening, but you are no longer swept away by it. Let me give you a simple metaphor. Imagine a leaf floating on a river. The river is your mind, the leaf is your reaction. If you try to fight the current, you struggle, panic, exhaust yourself. But if you simply let the leaf float, noticing where it moves, without trying to control it, you feel calm even as the river moves. The water continues to flow, the thoughts continue to arise, but your inner state becomes steady. Most people skip this step because it seems passive. How can I not fight my thoughts? Won't they take over? But that is exactly the point. By not fighting, you regain control. Not control over the thoughts, but control over your relationship with them. That is the secret. Freedom is not in stopping the mind. Freedom is in seeing it clearly without being trapped. And here is the beauty. Once you stop arguing with your mind, you create space for choice. Instead of reacting automatically, you can decide, do I need to act on this thought? Often the answer is no. The thought passes. Sometimes you realize the thought has value, a caution, an insight, a reminder. But the key is that you are no longer enslaved by it. You respond consciously instead of reactively. Another important point, the mind loves noise. If you leave it idle, it will fill the silence with worry, doubt, and fear. But when you redirect attention with gentle curiosity or purposeful focus, the energy is transformed. Meditation, journaling, prayer, deep breathing, mindful walks, creative work, all these activities give the mind a channel. They allow the mind to act constructively rather than destructively. Remember this truth. A racing mind is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of engagement. It is a sign that you care. And caring is a beautiful quality. But caring without awareness becomes suffering. Awareness without action becomes stagnation. Awareness with understanding becomes liberation. So the next time your thoughts come flooding, instead of reacting, stop, notice, acknowledge, observe. Give them no fight, no argument, no judgment, and slowly, naturally, the mind begins to settle. It does not stop overnight. It does not surrender instantly, but with patience, with repeated practice, with gentle curiosity, the storm begins to calm. And here is the secret that most people miss. The mind does not have to be silent to be peaceful. Racing thoughts can exist alongside deep calm. You are not waiting for thoughts to disappear. You are cultivating a presence that is untouched by them. Peace is not in silencing the mind. Peace is not in silencing the mind. Peace is in seeing clearly that you are bigger than it. Peace is in discovering the observer within who is steady, silent, and free. Peace is in realizing that thoughts come and go, but awareness remains. So, let the racing begin. Let the noise come, watch it, acknowledge it, and let it you. In the process, you will discover that you are not a slave to your thoughts. You are the master of your attention, the witness of your mind, the calm in the storm. This is the art of not arguing with your mind, and it is one of the most powerful steps toward lasting inner peace. Your mind races because energy flows where attention goes. It is a law, simple yet profound. Think of your mind like a river. If the river is calm, water flows smoothly. But if the river is wild, overflowing, filled with debris, It destroys everything along its path. Your thoughts are that river, and your attention is the direction you give it. Where you place attention, energy follows. And if left unchecked, the mind floods your life with noise, anxiety, and distraction. Most people spend their lives in reactive attention. They scroll through social media, hop from one task to another, binge watch content that stimulates fear or envy, compare themselves constantly to others, replay past regrets, or plan endlessly for uncertain futures. Every small thought, every click, every distraction becomes fuel for the racing mind. The river flows faster, carrying away your peace with it. And when you finally pause, your brain has been so conditioned to chaos that it cannot rest. Now, imagine something different. Imagine directing your attention consciously, purposefully. That is the art of channeling energy. Just as an archer must aim the arrow carefully, you must aim your mind. Attention is your bow, focus is the arrow, energy is the force. Without aim, the arrow scatters, and energy is wasted. With aim, energy becomes precision, calm, and power. Start with small, intentional acts. When a thought arises, instead of following it down a rabbit hole of what ifs or should haves, notice it. Then gently redirect attention. You might focus on your breath, the sound of nature, a task at hand, or the present sensations in your body. This simple practice rewires the mind. You are teaching it. Not every thought deserves action. Not every impulse deserves reaction. Not every worry deserves engagement. Think of your energy like sunlight. If sunlight hits a window covered in dust and dirt, it scatters and illuminates little. If sunlight hits a clear, polished window, it floods the room with light. Attention clears the window through which your mental energy flows. Where you focus, clarity grows. Where you scatter attention, confusion and anxiety dominate. This is why mindfulness is transformative. Mindfulness is the gentle discipline of noticing where your attention is going moment by moment and bringing it back when it wanders. Over time, your racing mind begins to slow because it is no longer allowed to run wild unchecked. You become the pilot rather than the passenger. And once you are the pilot, energy is no longer wasted. Thoughts no longer hijack you. Instead, energy flows toward creativity, problem solving, gratitude, and inner peace. Many people underestimate how powerful attention is. They assume that thoughts will come simply by trying to relax or stop thinking. But the mind is not like a machine you switch off. The mind is like a wild horse. It needs direction, not suppression. When you channel your attention, you are not denying thoughts. You are giving them a path to move along safely without creating havoc. Let's talk about an everyday example. You wake up in the morning and instantly scroll through social media. Within 10 minutes, your mind is already comparing, judging, craving, and worrying. The energy that could have gone into meditation, planning your day, learning something new, or simply feeling gratitude is now diverted. Your mind races before the day even begins. Contrast that with starting the morning intentionally. A few minutes, conscious breathing, setting priorities, journaling, or reflecting. Suddenly, attention is anchored. Energy flows toward clarity instead of chaos. The racing mind still exists, but it now has direction. It has purpose. Channeling attention also works during anxiety. When panic or overthinking strikes, don't fight it. Don't try to stop the thought directly. Instead, shift attention to something nourishing. Listen to music that uplifts. Read words that inspire. Move your body. Speak gently to someone you trust. Meditate on values. Serve someone in need. These are not distractions. They are redirections of attention to what matters. Energy without attention is wasted potential. A mind that constantly races but is undirected is like a fire without containment. It burns everything in sight. But when attention is intentional, energy becomes warmth and light, not destruction. You gain the power to create rather than react, to solve rather than worry, to build rather than destroy. The beauty of this practice is cumulative. At first, channeling attention may feel subtle. A racing thought still appears. A worry still lingers. But each time you notice and redirect, you reinforce a pattern of mastery. Over weeks and months, your mind learns a new rhythm. Energy is no longer scattered. The river slows, the storm abates, and the space between thoughts grows. The space where insight, calm, and creativity emerge. Finally, remember this: your attention is sacred. Protect it, nourish it, channel it with awareness and intention. Every moment you practice this, you teach your mind to stop racing unnecessarily. You teach your energy to flow constructively. You teach yourself that peace is not a distant goal. It is created moment by moment, thought by thought, choice by choice. By when the mind won't stop racing, it's not helpless. It's waiting for guidance. It's waiting for conscious attention. It's waiting for you to become the master of where energy flows. And the moment you begin directing that energy with purpose, the river slows. The noise diminishes. Calmness becomes natural, not forced. And the mind, once wild and chaotic, becomes a loyal companion instead of a tyrant. Your mind races because it is living in a future that doesn't exist yet. Anxiety, stress, and overthinking are almost always projections. They are mental movies you run in advance, imagining scenes that may never happen. And here's the irony: most of the things your mind worries about never occur. Think about it. How many of your past fears actually came true? How many of your what if scenarios materialized exactly as you imagined? Very few, if any. Yet the mind keeps rehearsing the future incessantly. It whispers, what if this fails? What if they judge me? What if I don't succeed? And because the future is unknown, the mind fills the gaps with worst-case scenarios. It magnifies uncertainties. It imagines obstacles that may never exist. It conjures problems that are not yet real. This is why living fully in the present is transformative. When you anchor yourself in the now, your mind stops projecting endlessly. The present is real, it is tangible, it is accessible. Your body exists in the present, your senses perceive the present, yet your mind often refuses to join you there. It drifts into a tomorrow that isn't happening, a week that hasn't arrived, a month, a year that may never come. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine you are walking in a beautiful garden. The flowers are blooming, birds are singing, the sun is warm on your skin. Yet, instead of enjoying this moment, you keep looking at a locked gate, far away, worrying about what might be on the other side. You miss the fragrance, the colors, the beauty that is present. That gate may never even open, but your mind refuses to release it. Our racing thoughts often revolve around control. The mind believes it must anticipate every outcome to protect you. If I foresee it, I can prevent it. And while planning is valuable, obsessive anticipation is destructive. When you live in a continuous loop of future scenarios, your nervous system stays activated. Heart rate rises, stress hormones circulate, sleep is disrupted. Joy becomes impossible because it is always deferred. Now, here's a simple yet profound practice. Whenever you notice yourself worrying about a future that hasn't arrived, gently remind yourself, right now, I have what I need. Right now, this moment is enough. The repetition of this awareness rewires the mind. It begins to distinguish between real present challenges and imagined future fears. Think about something small but relatable. You receive an email but at night, your mind immediately jumps to all possible problems. Deadlines missed, mistakes made, conflicts arising. But in the present moment, nothing has gone wrong. You are physically safe. The email exists, but the catastrophe does not. By bringing attention to the present, taking a deep breath, observing your body, feeling your surroundings, you diminish the power of hypothetical worry. This principle applies to every aspect of life: financial concerns, career decisions, relationship uncertainties. The mind will always generate scenarios. It's designed to prepare you. But preparation should not become obsession. Presence transforms preparation from anxiety into action. You respond to what is happening, not to a fiction in your imagination. Even spiritually, this has deep significance. Every faith tradition reminds us, today is what we have. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow is not promised. By anchoring attention in the present, you align with a higher rhythm of life. The mind ceases to race because it stops trying to control the uncontrollable. Trust replaces fear. Awareness replaces chaos. Presence replaces anxiety. Here's a story. A young man once told me he constantly worried about his future. Every night he lay awake thinking about exams, career choices, relationships, and societal expectations. One day, he visited a river. He watched water flow past rocks, leaves drifting downstream, birds landing and taking off. I asked him, "Do the rocks worry about where the river will go?" He laughed. "No," he said, "they are just here." I said, "Exactly, and yet the river flows effortlessly." Life is like that. The flow exists. You don't need to anticipate every turn to survive. Presence is the antidote to racing thoughts about the future. When you breathe, when you notice your surroundings, when you engage fully with the task at hand, your mind returns home. The storm slows, the projections dissolve, anxiety diminishes. You discover that most fears are exaggerations, fantasies of the mind trying to keep you safe, but creating unnecessary suffering instead. The final secret of this lesson is trust. When the future is unknown, you don't need to fight it, you don't need to control it, you don't need to control it, you don't need to anticipate every possible outcome. You do what you can now, your responsibility in this moment, and leave the rest to life, to God, to the universe, to the natural unfolding of events. You act consciously and let the rest flow. Your racing mind begins to calm when you internalize this truth. The future is not happening right now. Right now is happening. Right now is real. Right now contains your choices, your actions, your awareness, and your peace. When you live fully in this moment, your thoughts lose urgency, your energy flows, your presence becomes your power. So the next time you catch yourself imagining all that might go wrong, pause, breathe, feel the ground beneath your feet, observe your body, your senses, your surroundings. Remind yourself, the catastrophe is in my mind, not in reality. Right now, I am safe. Right now, I am enough. Right now, I can choose presence. This is not a temporary fix. This is a lifelong practice. And the more you do it, the less your mind races about tomorrow, the more peace you experience today, and the more clarity guides every step of your life. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people hear the word and imagine restriction, deprivation, or rigidity, waking up early, unwillingly, following strict schedules, giving up pleasures. But true discipline is not punishment. True discipline is freedom. It is the structure that allows the mind to stop racing, the habits that quiet the noise, the framework that gives energy a constructive path. Without discipline, the mind is a wild horse, beautified, alive, but uncontrollable. With discipline, that same horse becomes a powerful steed, capable of carrying you toward your highest goals with grace, focus, and speed. Think about it. When life lacks order, chaos fills the gaps. Irregular sleep patterns, excessive screen time, constant consumption of unfiltered information, of unfinished tasks, disorganized routines, all of these create clutter in your environment and in your mind. A cluttered space invites a cluttered mind. A cluttered mind invites racing thoughts. Anxiety thrives in chaos. Without structure, your brain cannot differentiate what deserves attention from what doesn't. Your attention scatters, energy disperses, thoughts multiply, the river overflows. Discipline provides anchors. Small, simple anchors create enormous stability over time, waking up at the same time each day, even if it's just a little earlier than usual, trains the body and mind. Journaling for 10 minutes daily clears mental debris. A consistent meditation or prayer practice creates calm in the nervous system. Limiting mindless social media scrolling directs attention away from imagined threats and toward meaningful engagement. Completing even small tasks builds confidence. Each anchor reduces mental noise and strengthens your inner calm. Consider the analogy of a garden. A disciplined gardener waters regularly, removes weeds, prunes plants, and provides sunlight in the right amounts. The garden flourishes. Neglect it, and weeds overrun it. The soil dries, flowers wither. Your mind is the same. Discipline tends the mental garden. Habits, routines, and conscious choices nourish the mind, remove distractions, prune unproductive patterns, and create fertile ground for creativity, clarity, and peace. Discipline also teaches boundaries. A racing mind often feeds on excess, too much information, too much stimulation, too many obligations. Say I. No becomes a form of freedom. Limiting news intake, choosing what conversations you enter, controlling digital exposure, and deciding how much attention to give to every thought, task, or worry. All of this is discipline. It may seem restrictive, but in reality, it protects your energy, focuses your attention, and calms your mind. Without these boundaries, the mind is constantly on alert, jumping from one worry to another, never resting, never finding peace. Even small acts of discipline accumulate into a powerful ripple effect. When you wake up early, your mind is not immediately bombarded. You have a window of stillness. That stillness reduces racing thoughts throughout the day. When you consistently meditate or practice mindfulness, your mind learns it doesn't have to react to every impulse. When you finish tasks promptly instead of postponing them, mental clutter is reduced. Step by step, habit by habit, the storm inside begins to settle. Discipline also shapes perspective. A disciplined mind notices patterns. It observes the consequences of action and inaction. It recognizes the long-term impact of choices. The person who exercises self-control in thought, speech, and action experiences fewer regrets. The person who channels attention and maintains structure experiences less mental chaos. The mind races when it lacks reference points, but discipline provides those reference points. It creates stability, it creates rhythm, It creates a framework for thoughtful action instead of reactive anxiety. And here is a subtle truth: discipline is not about controlling the mind forcefully. It is about giving it safe, meaningful outlets. A restless mind craves stimulation. Without a healthy channel, it invents its own anxiety, rumination, worry, overthinking. Discipline redirects that energy into constructive paths. Meditation, exercise, journaling, creative work, service, all are ways to focus the restless energy of the mind. The horse is not chained, it is guided. It runs with purpose rather than panic. The beauty of discipline is that it builds mental freedom over time. At first, it feels like effort. It feels like restriction. But as you integrate routines and habits, the mind learns the rhythm. Racing thoughts diminished, energy flows intentionally. Attention is no longer scattered. The chaos reduces naturally because the mind has structure, and structure is liberating. Discipline is not punishment, it is preparation for peace. So if your mind won't stop racing, examine your daily structure. Examine your routines, your habits, your boundaries, your anchors. Are they protecting your attention? Are they nurturing your mind? Small, consistent steps matter more than drastic overnight changes. Begin with one habit, anchor your attention, protect your energy, guide your mind gently, lovingly, and persistently. Disciplined is not about controlling life. It is about controlling the mind's reaction to life. It is about creating a container so that energy flows toward growth, presence, and peace. When your inner world has structure, the racing thoughts lose urgency. Calmness emerges naturally. Your mind, once chaotic and restless, becomes steady, powerful, and peaceful. And this leads to the final, most important lesson: the lesson of trust, surrender, and faith, the ultimate key to quieting the restless mind. And now, my dear friends, we arrive at the heart of it all: the quiet wisdom that transforms a restless mind into a peaceful heart. After understanding your thoughts, observing them, not arguing with them, channeling your energy, staying present, and building discipline, the final step is surrender. Trust something bigger than your mind, bigger than your fears, bigger than your plans. Trust that there is a rhythm to life, a guiding presence, and a source of strength beyond what you can see or control. The racing mind tries to convince you that you are alone, that you must solve everything, that you are alone, that you must solve everything, that you are responsible for every outcome. But the truth is, life has a flow. God, the universe, or the higher order, call it what you will, carries you when your own strength feels insufficient. You act consciously, you take responsibility, you prepare diligently, and then, with faith, you release the outcome. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is courage. It is the intelligence of knowing that control is limited, but effort and awareness are not. When you put faith first, fear naturally takes the last place. When you anchor your life in trust, the mind no longer races to predict every danger because it knows that you are supported. You do your best, and then you rest in the assurance that life unfolds as it should. So tonight, when your thoughts begin to spin, pause, breathe, smile at your mind, observe it, read, practice discipline, stay present, and above all, trust. Trust that there is a wisdom guiding your life, a force greater than your worries, a love greater than your fears. Remember this timeless truth: happiness and peace are not found by controlling every thought or outcome, but by choosing where your attention flows, acting consciously, and surrendering with faith. Your mind may still race, but your heart can remain calm. Your thoughts may still chatter, but your soul can remain steady. And the moment you combine awareness, discipline, presence, and faith, life becomes no longer a storm to survive, but a journey to embrace. Do not wait, begin today. Let awareness guide you, let discipline anchor you, let presence ground you, and let faith carry you. The calm mind you long for is not in some distant future. It is here, waiting for you to choose it. And peace is not out there, peace is within, and when you choose it, everything else aligns